23rd of February, 11:32 a.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Ante-Chamber. Joyful, jubilant jumping jacks! Oh, Mr. Natsume, I am so pleased for you. Locum student, Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire, and locum student judicious, Mr. Miss Makatoba, Esquires. Now, finally, at long last, there can be proof. Proof that I'm innocent, and proof that my tea is innocent. Ah, good morning, my dear fellows. Sherlock Holmes. May you drink my tepid tea and fall forever silent. I thought the tea was innocent. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, you came. How wonderful. Please, save your derision. I know what you're all thinking. Good morning, he says, when it's very nearly time for luncheon. Your scorn is written clearly across your faces. Nobody said or thought anything of the sort. The truth is, I was determined that today would be the day. As sleep seduced me last night, I thought, tomorrow, for once, I shall not oversleep. I will rise early and be present in court to support my companions. Such spirited determination has a beauty all of its own, does it not? Oh yes. And then I began to muse on the subject. Why do people oversleep? I queried. Why, time after time, do they make the same foolish blunder? And the answer came to me at once. It is so delightfully simple. People oversleep because they sleep. Well, is that not an astute insight into the matter? Yes. Upon which realization, I attempted an experiment. I didn't sleep a wink all night. Alright, sorry about that, folks. I don't know what happened. My audio just stopped recording for some reason. Don't ask me how, don't ask me why. Alright. By first light I was exhausted and began to be assailed by fits of drowsiness. Shocking. And so, the conclusion of last night's experiment is this. A good night's sleep is quite simply essential. Yeah, I think most of us probably knew that already. What others presuppose I prove by experimentation. What others presuppose I prove by experimentation. That, my dear fellow, is the scientific method. Ah, yes, and one more thing. Do you remember this? Yeah, of course. It's the poison that Miss Green was about to drink at the hospital yesterday. Oh, you didn't manage to... It was a laborious task as the bottle was near empty, but such inconveniences do not hinder Sholmes. I managed to confirm that it contained strychnine. So I was right. Perhaps, though of course such circumstantial evidence doesn't prove Miss Green's guilt. I shall leave the bottle in your care now, but licking the inside of the neck is not recommended.
Could I have a word?
Oh, could I have a word? Gregson, how good of you to come.
Okay, excuse me.
Wait a minute, Inspector.
I don't wish to make a nuisance of myself.
From the look on your face, I'd say it's someone else who you think is making a nuisance of himself. My dear Inspector, please, speak freely. Pretend that I'm not here.
Believe me, if I could do that, life would be a whole lot simpler for me.
Do you have the results, Inspector, of the investigation of Mr. Shamspeare's room?
Not yet. Shouldn't be long now, though. Nah, I'm here about something else. That dead convict, actually.
You mean the man from this newspaper article we discovered yesterday in Mr. Shamspeare's room? A man by the name of, yes, Selden. Is his full name Selden Green?
I went through the archives of the yard and dug out the fellow's file. There's something in there that, well, it caught my eye.
Something caught your eye? What, Inspector? What?
I've copied out the relevant parts for you, so you can read it out for yourself. So you can read it for yourselves.
Thank you. Did he dive strychnine too? These documents include the details that were in the newspaper cutting we found in Mr. Shamspeare's room. I'll rearrange everything in the court record so we don't have duplicate information. Why are you giving us a copy of this important file, though?
Well, you were the ones who turned up the clue in the first place, aren't you? I'm just making sure things get handled in the proper fashion.
Oh, Scotland Yard's workings are so wonderful. Indeed, my dear fellows, and the inspector here is a shining diamond in its crown. A shining diamond? In the rough, maybe.
Look, I just don't want to be beholden to a lawyer, that's all. Case you in the face. Defendant. Corpses are back to resume. Make your way to the courtroom at once.
Well, I shall leave you then. I'll be listening with interest from the public gallery. Not nodding off at all. Certainly not. Thank you, Mr. Shams. Let's look at these before we go inside, though. So this is the poison we've been hearing so much about. Strychnine. There are a few remnants on the bottom of the bottle here, look. You mustn't be tempted to try it. Of course not, as long as we don't lose this trial. No, even if we lose the trial. No, we mustn't lose the trial in the first place, Mr. Naruhodo. Make your mind up, Sasada-san. Oh, that's it? Okay. Alright. Let's see. 18 counts of burglary, 6 counts of suspected murder, died of natural causes whilst in prison, his final moments witnessed only by his cellmate, the estimated £1,000 worth of loot he stole remains unrecovered, Manchester's strange ways prison announced the death of... Okay. Right. So we still don't know who his cellmate is, and we don't know what his full name is. We just know that his cellmate watched him die, and he could possibly also know about the £1,000 treasure. So, there we go. I'm rather tired of seeing Mr. Moustache in floods of tears, personally, so the best of luck to you.
Look at Mr. Esquire!
Yes, Mr. Natsumi?
It's time, isn't it?
Yes, this is it. Miss Olive Green and Mr. William Shamspeare. This is gonna be the final battle. I won't really have saved Sasaki-san until I've exposed the whole truth of everything that's been going on. But it's all coming to a head now. You can do it, Rinnosuke. You have to. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again now. Before the recess, we heard a most startling accusation from the defense. Namely, that the victim of the case we heard here only a few days ago is the true perpetrator of this incident. A reckless, rash, and prejudiced charge of wrongdoings in my opinion, my lord. However, the prosecution has tried to extend every courtesy to this amateur newcomer from dubious eastern shores. Thank you for that backhanded consideration. A rather cold assessment from the honourable British prosecutor, I must say. So, Lord Van Zeeks, is the new witness present and ready to take the stand? Ready and waiting in the witness's antechamber, my lord. Very well. Bailiff, bring the witnesses in.
Witnesses, state your names and occupation for the court, please.
William Shamspeare, my liege. For mine occupation, I can say only that I be a tragic victim, to be pitied.
Currently unemployed, in other words.
I'm Olive Green. I'm a fledgling artist. Nah, not a fledgling, really. A hopeless failure who's too weak-spirited to admit she has no talent, I suppose.
Also currently unemployed, in other words.
What a coterie. Mr. Shamspeare?
My lord, I am thy humble servant.
I'm afraid that you are no longer merely the victim in this affair. The possibility has been raised that you are in fact the assailant, intent on taking the life of your fellow lodger. The part you have played in this whole business will be thoroughly scrutinized, I assure you.
I would for naught else, my lord.
And Miss Green?
Yes? Yes?
You are aware of the reason you have been summoned to this courtroom today, I presume?
Yeah, the officer did explain. He said I poisoned this ridiculous buffoon.
And, do you accept the charge, Miss Green?
I don't know anything about any poisoning. And I don't know anything about this man. Come, lady.
Sorry again. I don't know what's going on here. I hope this doesn't happen again. Here we go. So,
come, lady, die to live. Verily, I know not thy prickly pea-pigmented personage.
Very well. Let us proceed with the matter at hand. That being to ascertain whether or not Miss Green has any involvement in this affair.
It's all very strange indeed. Why would you suspect me? I barely ever go to the East End anyway. It so happens that I passed by that neighbourhood 6 days ago, that's all. And on the night that this man was poisoned, I was still in hospital, fighting for my life.
Yes, having been unfortunately caught up in the incident on the street outside the Gerda household. An incident that rendered you unconscious for some 3 days.
I was shot in the middle of my back by a knife, through no fault of my own, and now I'm under suspicion? What other irrelevant things might I be suspected of? It's all very disturbing.
Your energies may be better spent worrying about random knife attacks, I feel, Miss Green. At this point in time, all that appears to connect to you with Mr. Shamspeare's lodgings is the Briar Road incident of 6 days ago. That's why we would like you to testify formally now about exactly what happened.
Oh no! The incident 6 days ago? You mean you want me to relive that awful incident?
Unfortunately, yes. Please, tell the court what happened that day. And of course, we will be interested to hear from you about your movements that day too, Mr. Shamspeare.
Eh? But what happened 6 days ago has nothing to do with me being poisoned.
Let us proceed then. The witnesses will present their formal testimony to the court on the subject of the incident that took place on Briar Road the evening of the 17th of February. Alright.
It was 6 days ago, about 5 p.m. I was walking around in the snow when I was suddenly stabbed in the back. Coincidentally, it happened to be just outside the house where the men in this case have their lodgings. I was at the tavern on the eve of which thou speakst, for I had bespoke my supper. It was the first time I'd been in the area. I had a little matter to attend to, that's all. Anyway, I was admitted straight to hospital, so I knew nothing about all this business.
Yes, a second incident inside a week at what I believe to be aptly described as the haunted lodgings. One can only presume this is a most unfortunate coincidence.
Meanwhile, you say you were not in your room, Mr. Shamspeare?
'Twas the following morn when I did awaken that I learned of the dire event. Mary, what a commotion did the officers of the law make on the floor above mine.
When the second son was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. As suspected, there's nothing connecting these two witnesses but happenstance.
It's true, it does seem as though they're unrelated at first glance, but I'm not so sure. There's something lurking in the shadows here. I feel certain of it. And this is my one and only chance to expose it. Kazu, you may now cross-examine these two witnesses if you wish. Yes, my lord. I do wish it.
It was 6 days ago, about 5 p.m. I was walking around in the snow when I was suddenly stabbed in the back.
I'm well acquainted with the case. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
It was awful. I still can't believe I was unconscious for so long. And I woke up to find the case had been solved and the culprit arrested.
Yes, the incident has been resolved already. Perhaps it would help you to consider it a bad dream that ended with your awakening and should now be forgotten.
Yeah, I suppose so. Thank you.
But before you put it completely behind you, Miss Green, I need you to remember the details one last time. You must tell the court exactly what happened that day, for us to arrive at the truth about this new case.
The trouble is, there's nothing to tell, really. I was just walking along the pavement. Coincidentally, it happened to be just outside the house where the men in this case had their lodgings.
What were you doing there that day, though?
What do you mean?
The art school you attend, what's it called?
Yeah, it's the Thorndike Academy of Fine Arts.
According to Mrs. Sholmes, that is just in the vicinity of Brixton Road, which is some 10 stops away from the scene on the Underground. I believe you mentioned before that you also live on Brixton Road, isn't that right? So why then would you have been walking along Briar Road in the middle of the East End?
Well, it's because, oh, yeah, of course. I thought it might make a nice picture.
The witness is a student of art, city dwelling.
Alright, I'm really sorry about this. This is the last time. If this happens again, I'm gonna try to find another solution to this. Anyway, let's stop delaying. Okay, so right. I don't even remember where the recording stopped last time. Anyway, if she's trying to hide why she was there that evening, it must mean there is a reason for her not wanting us to know. That's the key to this. And you, Mr. Shamspeare, on the evening of the incident 6 days ago, would you tell the court what exactly you were doing?
"'Twould be my pleasure, sire. I was at the tavern on the eve of which thou speakst, for I had bespoke my supper."
A tavern, you say? Which one?
"'Twas the Slug and Salad where I did tarry. 'Tis a jewel in the East End."
And a little unexpected, I feel.
What do you mean, Lord Van Zieks?
The Slug and Salad offers unusually fine dining, for the locality at least. Not an establishment you'd expect to be patronized by a man with not even a crumb of bread in his room.
It is true that many will list premium crusts of bread and glasses of water in different levels of cloudiness.
I would have expected grubs grabbery in the local vicinity to be more appropriate for your means. Watery soup and mushy peas, or rather, soupy water and pea like mush.
All equally appetizing.
I just wanted to try some water in a different pub for once. What's wrong with that?
How different can water really be? Or perhaps there is a more plausible explanation. A specific reason why he had to go to that particular establishment. Agreed. The fact that on that day of all days he dined at a place he wouldn't normally, it does stand out. So Mr. Shamspeare's own actions on the day of the incident 6 days ago were slightly suspicious. I wonder if we have some evidence that can explain those actions. I mean, we technically do, but I'm pretty sure this can be the key to it, but you know what? For now, we'll say that we don't. I wish we did, but sadly, I can't think of anything at the moment. If we find a clue that could explain why Mr. Shamspeare went there, we must present it to the court. Yes, absolutely.
If that is all on this matter, Counsel, I would ask Miss Green to reiterate her next statement.
It was the first time I've been in the area. I was a little mad to attend to, that's all.
What little matter, Miss Green? Please elaborate.
It was nothing, really. It's not worth mentioning.
If you remember, you mentioned it to us yesterday at the hospital. It was related to the card you were holding. Miss Green! What was that? She clearly just hid something behind her back. From memory, I believe the card contained a note that read, I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross.
What does that matter? This has nothing to do with Duncan.
Oh? Excuse me. Alright. Mr. Shamspeare, do you have something to share with the court?
To be or not to be, that is the question. Pray forgive me, the great bard's word springeth from within me with no thought.
Don't tell me, it's because you're possessed by Shakespeare's spirit, right? Hearing Miss Green's words a moment ago seemed to make you think of something. Something of relevance, perhaps?
Eh? Nay, sire, 'twas nothing at all.
Presumably you know the name, though. Mr. Duncan Ross, I mean. After all, you were both lodgers in the same house.
I would it were so, but sadly nay. Lodging be a lowly occupation, sire. My lodging fellows be rarely known to me.
So you haven't heard of him, even though he passed away in the room just one floor above yours?
Miss Green?
Me, my lord? Have I done something wrong?
The card that was mentioned before, containing the note, do you have it upon your person?
I do, yeah, but I don't need it anymore. In fact, I should throw it away, really.
Before you dispose of it, the court will take it as evidence, please.
There we go. Of course, that's what links Mr. Shamspeare and Miss Green. It's Duncan Ross. You just figured it out, huh?
Now, continue with your testimony, please, Miss Green.
Anyway, I was admitted straight to the hospital, so I knew nothing about all this business.
Yeah, you didn't regain consciousness until the day after the trial, did you? In the early hours?
Exactly, so how could I have had anything to do with it? And yet you still owe me in here to court like this.
Honestly.
So at the time of the poisoning, the witness was unconscious in her hospital bed. Could there be a more airtight alibi, I ask you?
And yet, in spite of that, you claim that I was the culprit?
Well,
But you certainly haven't produced any evidence to support your wild claim, have you? None at all.
There you have it. The good lady has yet to see evidence, my learned Nipponese friend.
I'm working on it. Kazu, I'll point out here that the jury's next decision will be final. We're really up against the wall here. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo, you pursued Mr. Shamspeare wonderfully there. It's worked out well, hasn't it? We have a new clue at last. Alright, now I need to pull off a really insightful objection somewhere. Well, as you've managed to expose this promising new angle, I wonder if you should perhaps try to develop that. Ah, yes, of course! And yelling out objections isn't necessarily the best way to do that, I suppose. Alright, yeah, so which statement was it? This one, I think? Yeah, there we go. And there we go. Alright. Let's look at the letter first. The envelope has been ripped open rather carelessly, hasn't it? Miss Green strikes me as the type to open correspondence more neatly than that. What is it? The way the envelope is torn, I'm almost sure I've seen the exact same shape somewhere else. Oh, you don't mean... Were you thinking of this piece of evidence, Mr. Naruhodo? Exactly, that's it. That piece of evidence. Try to match them up. Oh. They go together perfectly. This torn off end of the envelope clearly belongs with this card. There we go. There we go. Can we read what the letter says though? No? Okay. I guess that's enough connection there. Alright, there we go. Mr. Shamspeare.
Yes, sire?
On the day in question, is it not the case that you visited the Slug and Salad, a place you don't normally patronize, for a very particular reason?
I don't know what you're talking about. Pray, if thou hadst some purpose, speakest.
I will speakest. I will present the court with evidence. Evidence that explains why you had to be at the Slug and Salad that day. Namely...
Take that!
I believe this card reveals the answer.
Good lord, Miss Green's card, you mean?
That's right, my lord. It reads, I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anybody else about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of utmost importance. Mr. Shamspeare, your actions on the afternoon of Miss Green's stabbing are exactly as described in this note. Personally, I find it hard to believe that's a coincidence. Don't you, Mr. Shamspeare?
Well...
Excuse me, can I say something?
Yes, Miss Green?
That card was delivered to me. It doesn't have anything to do with this old man, does it?
Well, you'd think so, yeah, but it's hard to believe it's merely...
My lord, may I?
May you what, Miss Green?
I'd like to make something very clear about that card.
Very well then, you may amend your testimony to include details about the peculiar note.
This note was delivered to me at my address. It's nothing to do with the old man next to me here.
Hold it!
I think you said that you received it the day before the incident, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right.
There appears to be no indication of the sender's name or address on the envelope.
It was in my letterbox, and that's all I know, I'm afraid. I've no idea who sent it.
I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Who is this Duncan Ross, please?
A friend of mine. He attended the same art school as I do. He passed away in a tragic accident a month ago now, though. I wasn't sure what to make of that note, to be honest, but in the end, I decided to go.
So you found out what the information was?
Of course I didn't. You're not thinking straight.
First on over, she was stabbed in the back, as my learned friend hopefully remembers.
Yeah, of course. She never made it to the meeting. Alright. And let's go back. And... okay, there we go. And...
Objection.
there we go. The day before the incident, exactly 1 week ago now, this note was delivered to your address. And upon carrying out the instructions on the note, you found yourself in hospital.
Yeah, I did. It's terrible, everything that's happened to me.
Yeah, it is terrible. If it's all true, that is.
What do you mean?
Miss Green, have a look at this, please. It's the torn off end of an envelope.
Is it?
And it so happens that it fits together perfectly with the envelope of the note you received.
Where did you find that?
In Mrs. Shamspeare's room.
Eh? In my room?
Mrs. Shamspeare, do you perhaps remember this note from somewhere?
Well...
Your actions that afternoon follow the instructions of the note to the letter. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. And so that's exactly where you went. Let me ask you again, Mr. Shamspeare. You already knew about this note, didn't you? And you, Miss Green?
What did I do?
As this torn off end of the envelope proves, the note was originally in Mr. Shamspeare's room. So how is it that it came to be in your possession?
I don't have the first idea. I am just a fledgling artist, after all.
There's only one explanation. You broke into Mr. Shamspeare's room and stole it.
You did what? Sorry, thou hast what? You broke... thou were in my room? What on earth do you want with me?
It would seem that both witnesses need to testify again.
Miss Green,
Yes?
first you have the court's sympathy, I'm sure, for the suffering you have endured in recent events. Anyone found to be giving false testimony in a court of law will be duly punished. Please bear that in mind.
Yes, I know.
Very well then, witnesses. You will give formal testimony again now. On the subject of this curious anomaly regarding the note Miss Green claims to have received. Alright. Let's see where this path leads.
I do remember now. 'Twas a week ago. Pre-adventure.
What?
I do remember now. 'Twas a week ago, peradventure, that note was delivered unto me. On the day writ therein, I did tarry a long hour at the Slug and Salad, yet nobody came. Thereafter, on the evening I shared the company of the Japanese fellow, I did see the note had vanished.
I don't know what you mean. You think I snuck into this man's room, do you? Why would I? I could point out the villain here. And as for that torn off piece of the envelope, I don't know anything about it.
You now claim to have received this letter, do you, Mr. Shamspeare?
Faith, 'tis so, my lord, and I would swear to have set it upon the table in my humble lodgings. Yet 'tis clear to me now that since I returned from the tavern that night, I have not laid eyes upon it.
Well, that being the case, young lady, it would appear that your testimony was...
A lie.
A lie? Is that what you think? How unfair of you to think I'm the one lying.
I beg your pardon?
I'm just a fledgling artist, as I said, and fledgling artists don't lie. That note was delivered to me at my address. Besides, we all know who the lawyer around here is.
If that's true, Miss Green, how do you explain the facts? This part of the envelope was, without question, found in Mr. Shamspeare...
I don't see why I should explain.
Sorry?
I'm a fledgling artist. My job here is just to say what happened, that's all. It's your job to give the explanations and the proofs. You, the fledgling lawyer.
The fledgling will do his best.
Evidently, my learned friend's cross-examination is our only hope of learning the truth.
Well, Kenzo? I'm ready, my lord. Very well, then. The defense will now proceed with the cross-examination of the witnesses.
Miss Green clearly did break into Mr. Shamspeare's room. There can be no question of that. And that is how she acquired the note.
Yeah, two facts that are starting to lead me to a possible explanation for all of this. And it's not a pretty one. Oh dear.
I do remember now. 'Twas a week ago, peradventure. That note was delivered unto me.
And can you shed any light on the contents of the note at all?
Nay, sire, 'tis as strange to me as a foreign tongue. Even with a knowledge of literature as great as mine own, verily 'tis impenetrable.
But Mr. Duncan Ross had lodgings in the same household as you. In effect, he was your neighbor, so surely you knew about him, didn't you?
Alack, if the choice is betwixt I knew him and I knew him not, then 'tis with foreboding that I be forced to declare we were by some small measure acquainted.
Despite your claims, though, you followed the note's instructions and went to the Slug and Salad. Presumably that was nothing to do with your knowledge of literature?
Mary, naught will have the better of Mary, naught will have the better of me, sire, save for the lure of curiosity. So 'tis true, I was compelled by mine own eager heart to betake myself to the tavern. Yet in the end, my curiosity was not satiated. On the day writ therein, I did tarry a long hour at the Slug and Salad, yet nobody came.
So even after waiting for an hour, nobody appeared.
Well, yes, sire, 'tis as thou sayest.
Really? You paused for a moment before you answered.
In truth, when thou asked whether nobody appeared, I did suddenly recall.
Really? Do you mean to tell the court that somebody did appear after all?
I was not alone that night at the Slug and Salad, my lord, no. 'Tis returning to me now. I did treat my lips to almost clear water, and mine innards to a premium crust of bread. And all around me danced a great many companions.
What do you mean?
Flies, sire, flies.
Good lord!
In the name of Beelzebub, what were they? Fairies, perchance, from a midsummer night's dream, come to taunt me?
I think they were just flies. I can't help thinking that the flies ought to choose something more wholesome to buzz around. Is that wrong of me? Well, flies like circling around shit, so...
Thereafter, on the evening I shared the company of the Japanese feller, I did see the note had vanished.
Hold it!
When exactly did you notice it had gone missing?
Such idle thoughts ne'er occupy my mind. I am busied with greater ideas.
In other words, you didn't notice.
Several days passed between your adding to the tavern and Mr. Natsumi's visit to your room.
Yes, it would appear that the note disappeared sometime in that interval.
Such idle thoughts ne'er occupy my mind. I am busied with greater ideas.
And yet, during that time, Miss Green was comatose in hospital, was she not? Clearly then, she could not have been stealing things from Mr. Shamspeare's room.
Yeah, of course. It's all some sort of misunderstanding,
Isn't it, Mr. Prosecutor, sir?
You have so far failed to give a satisfactory explanation as to how you came by the note. I am not here to advocate for your defense, madam. I won't tolerate inconsistencies in your stories. You would do well to remember that.
Oh, dearie me.
What's Lord Van Zeek's getting at? Hold on a minute. I just had a theory. When we talked to her in the hospital last time, she told us that she would that she knows that the medicine cabinet would be unlocked for some time, so she would sneak some medicine out of there. So that's how she came by the strychnine. Could it be possible that she would pretend to be comatose by taking some sort of drug in there, and then when she wakes up, she wakes up from the fake coma and steals the note, the letter, when no one is around. Then she comes back and drugs herself? Maybe? Something like that? I'm thinking she's faking the comatose somehow, right? That's how she managed to steal the letter while still being comatose, right? So... Anyway.
I don't know what you mean. You think I snuck into this man's room, dear? Why would I?
Hold it!
It seems that this note was actually delivered to Mr. Shamspeare about 1 week ago.
Oh, does it?
But for some reason, it ended up in your possession. I can't think of any way that could have happened except for you breaking into Mr. Shamspeare's lodgings.
Objection!
But for what reason would the witness have done that? I won't deny that Miss Green's possession of the note would appear to defy logic. However, until and unless her involvement in this case can be proven in some other way, any further pursuit of this note is meaningless.
Miss Green could only have come to be in possession of the note by stealing it from Mr. Shamspeare's room. And yet, there's no obvious reason why she would have done such a thing. What if there was some other reason she broke into his lodgings, though? Yes, we should pursue that idea, Mr. Naruhodo. We're close now. I can feel it. We're so close to a breakthrough.
I can point out the villain here. And as for that torn off piece of the envelope, I don't know anything about it.
Hold it!
So you don't want to tell the court about the letter, is that it?
I'm a fledgling artist, remember? Artists are nearly always introverted characters.
Introverted? Fie, this fledgling doth readily cast aspersions about my nature. Yet I am an angel, a seraph. Birds do harmonize with my song. The wind doth frolic on my wing. O pity, wherefore dost thou accuse one so pure of heart, ample woman?
Pure of heart, I don't think so. Even a fledgling like me can see you're just a failure.
Tragedy, thou shalt not know the true heart of an artist until thine instruction hereafter by death. Oh the days, oh the years, alas, to enlighten thee, thou must wait so long, and in vain.
Mr. Naruhodo, interject with some clever remark. This is your chance to shine.
I am no Shakespearean actor, Mrs. Sato. No, as far as I can tell, the only thing that's gonna resolve this argument
Is evidence. Yes. It's clear that Miss Green did in fact break into Mr. Shamspeare's room, isn't it? And that is where she found this letter.
yeah, two more or less foregone conclusions that lead me to one terrifying conclusion.
Terrifying?
Yes, I'm afraid to say that the outcome of this cross-examination may well change how we look at this case completely. Let's see. Boom. Nope.
I'm sorry, Cancel, but I fail to see why.
Well, you know, I was just playing devil's advocate.
Yes, you do appear to have something of the devil in you, Mr. Naruhodo.
Says the man merrily dishing out penalties. Dressed in red. Alright. Let's think this through. Why would she sneak into Shamspeare's room? Is there something we haven't discovered about the letter? No. I was thinking that's Duncan again. That's Duncan Ross right there. So maybe that's something. I've got no clue because she forgot the other part of the envelope.
Objection.
No. Got no idea though. Oh no, really? That's the thing to present on here? Okay, so I was right. Okay, she wasn't there for the note? She's there for the poison, really? Oh yeah, I guess this was also in her possession, so I don't know. I don't think I would have figured that out on my own. It's a bit of a long shot. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but I'm sure to someone out there it does. So
Objection.
there we go. Yesterday at the hospital, we saw you with this bottle. And though the contents spilled during the course of our meeting, a small quantity remained. According to the defense's independent analysis, Mr. Jones's chemistry said, the liquid that was still in the bottle was identified strychnine as strychnine.
What? Strychnine? The very same poison that afflicted Mr. Shamspeare?
Miss Green, you broke into this man's lodgings for one reason, and one reason alone. To cover the end of the pipe that feeds the gas lamp in Mr. Shamspeare's room with poison.
Can this be?
You broke into my room to...
It may seem incredible to the court, but from the remaining clues, there is only one logical conclusion that we can reach. The person who attempted to take Mr. Shamspeare's life with poison was you, Miss Olive Green.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dearie me!
Order! Counsel, are you seriously suggesting this woman put poison on the end of the gas pipe with intent to kill? Yes, my lord. There's no other way to explain the facts. But if Miss Green did indeed set this odious trap 6 days ago, and the victim had put his mouth to the pipe that very evening as expected, the attempted murder would have happened 6 days ago, surely. Well, that's a very good point.
Perhaps not, my lord.
I beg your pardon?
No. There was significant police presence in the area that evening, on account of the incident on Briar Road. Local residents were being interviewed throughout the night as part of the ongoing inquiry. A circumspect criminal would likely have chosen not to carry out any wrongdoing at that time.
Lord Van Zeeks. And of course, the following morning, there was more activity at Mr. Shamspeare's address. More activity? Yeah. You mean his fellow lodger, Mr. Natsume, being arrested on suspicion of murder? That's right. And as the defense has already proposed, Mr. Shamspeare was meddling with the gas in the pipe for a very sinister reason himself. To cause the gas stove in Mr. Natsume's room to go out, thereby asphyxiating the occupant. But once Mr. Natsume had been arrested, his room was under constant surveillance by the police. In the circumstances, Mr. Shamspeare had no reason to blow air into the gas pipe.
His intended victim being in a prison cell. With the need to tamper with the gas removed, the poison on the pipe lay dormant.
And then, 3 days ago now, the situation changed again. Right, Mr. Natsume's trial, which took place here at the Old Bailey, came to an end. The trial in which the man stood accused of stabbing Miss Green in the back, but was duly acquitted. That resulted in Mr. Natsume returning to his lodgings for the first time in 2 days. And that very night, his gas stove mysteriously went out, and Mr. Shamspeare was mysteriously poisoned. In conclusion, the poison that was present on the mouth of the gas pipe had been put there in the victim's room some 4 days earlier. With that new understanding, it becomes clear that this letter was all part of the plan. What plan? You know, the plan. The court will recall that the note gave instructions to visit the Slug and Salad at 5 o'clock, and that the recipient should tell nobody else. The reason for those instructions are now clear.
To ensure that the lodger would not be at home at the stated time.
To make sure I wasn't home?
Exactly. While you were out, Miss Green could safely slip into your room, knowing that she wouldn't be disturbed.
You mean to say that that letter
Was written by Miss Green, yes. And in order to cover her tracks, she took it away with her when she left. Just after she smeared poison over the mouth of the gas pipe in your room.
Order! Order! What do you have to say for yourself, witness?
Just who are you? Where did you try to kill me?
Miss Green's motive should be obvious. It's all tied up with someone whose name we've heard several times already during the course of the trial.
So, that's what's behind all this?
You will share your apparent understanding with the court, please, counsel. Which person is behind this woman's motive for the attack on the victim's life?
Take that!
Duncan Ross?
That's right. Before the defendant, Mr. Natsume, took up residence in the lodgings of Mr. Garadeb's, somebody else was renting the room. Mr. Duncan Ross.
I knew I'd heard the name somewhere else. It was all over the papers a month ago, when the man died in strange circumstances at the haunted lodgings.
That does ring a vague... Ah, of course, yes, I remember now. The young man they claimed was strangled by the convict's curse or some such.
Sadly, my lord, it wasn't a curse of any kind, nor was it an accident. The man died as a result of Mr. Shamspeare blowing into the gas pipe and causing gas to leak into the room. It was murder, plain and simple.
Ah!
Ha 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 ha. Well, what do you know? The world is so unfair. Curses, curious deaths. That's all people care about. If it's an interesting story, they want to know. It don't cross their minds that real people are involved. And once they're bored, just 1 month later, once the story's lost its appeal, everyone's forgotten him.
You mean Duncan was...
Mr. Ross was Miss Green's fiancé.
Fiancé?
You may not have known until now who Miss Green really is, Mr. Shamspeare. But she's known exactly who you are all along. Because you're her sworn enemy, the murderer who took the life of the man she was to marry.
Mary!
Miss Green, is it not the case that in order to exact revenge on Mr. Shamspeare, you smeared poison over the end of the gas pipe?
This is all quite extraordinary. Am I correct in my understanding that you now accuse both parties, Counsel? Each on different counts of murder?
Yes, my lord, that's correct.
Objection!
What?
Inhaling so deeply, it appears that my fledgling learned friend has taken in a lungful of dubious gas that's causing his judgment to be clouded.
What?
Why would Mrs. Shamspeare have wanted to kill these lodgers, as you say? You have completely failed to provide the motive to substantiate your accusation against the man.
Yes, that's right, Mr. Reaper, my liege. I have been slighted. 'Tis lies, all lies. I deny every utterance.
And you'll have to forgive me, Mr. Naruhodo, sir. But I don't intend to admit to anything either.
Miss Green,
I'm sure you'll think I'm being very rude, but I'm not going to be sent to the gallows for the loss of this scoundrel.
Objection!
but you broke into the man's room. If you didn't do it to smear poison on the pipe, what was your reason?
I thought I'd have a look around, that's all.
Sorry?
You're right, I suspect him. So I thought perhaps I might find some evidence of something in his room. Evidence that it was him who took Duncan's life.
Oh, vileness! Oh, villainy! Oh, tyranny! Oh, rotundity of a woman! But in any case, when I leave my room, I do turn the key in the lock.
That old place is falling apart. The locks on the doors are no different. Danton showed me once how to unlock the door with some tubes and a piece of wire.
Oh, awfulness! Oh, artfulness! Oh, tyranny! Oh, profanity of a woman!
We will consider your trespassing on some future occasion, but for now, tell the court what you found. What evidence your search revealed?
Well, I spotted the note that had set him lying on the floor. When I went to pick it up, I noticed something. One of the floorboards was loose, and underneath it, I discovered a secret hiding place.
Hey?
Yes, we also discovered that hiding place. Inside we found a newspaper cutting, a photograph, and an empty tin box.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, when I found it, The box wasn't empty.
What? There was something in it?
Yeah. This rather nice key.
What are you doing with that?
What the? Every ounce of color has drained from his face.
Give it here. Give it to me now. It's mine. I inherited it. What was that, witness?
Oh, fuck. My lines are getting crossed.
What was that, witness? What did you say? You inherited it.
No,
What's all this about? He's inherited that key?
It was obviously important to you since you got such levels to ID, so I took it. I don't know what it's for, but you took something precious from me, so I took something precious from you. So what if it means you can't open something now? I don't care.
Give it back this minute. Give it to me.
Calm yourself, witness.
So Mr. Shamspeare has tried, and in one case succeeded, to take the life of 2 lodgers now. Yeah, his motive for doing so is the key to everything that's happened. It's true that there appears to be no motive to support the accusation against Mr. Shamspeare at first. But considering everything we now know, I think there is actually something that could explain it.
What?
I need to recall every piece of evidence at our disposal. Everything we've seen and heard. Because I'm sure that I just caught a glimpse of the link that runs through all of these events.
In that case, Counsel, Mr. Vander should present evidence to the court in support of your claim. What is it that you say can explain the motivation for Mr. Shamspeare's alleged crimes?
Take that!
That an official police report, is it not?
The Selden file? How did you get hold of that?
Selden?
The now sadly deceased Mr. Ross and the defendant Mr. Natsume have only one thing linking them. The fact that they had lodgings in the same room.
Well, yes, we know this certainly.
A room that was formerly occupied by Selden. Until, that is, he was arrested by Scotland Yard for his involvement in multiple burglaries.
I see.
And it so happens that the convict Selden left behind one very substantial mystery when he died.
The sum £1,000 worth of loot that he stole, which as yet remains to be found.
Ah, yes, of course. It's coming back to me now. It's written in his file here.
£1,000 lost en route to hell. That was how the paper summed it up.
And it seems that one particular fellow inmate was with the convict in his final moments. It's not hard to imagine Selden entrusting that inmate with his most closely guarded secret. The location of the stolen loot, and perhaps a key to unlock whatever container the valuables were in.
You mean this key is...
Mr. Shamspeare, it was you, wasn't it? You were at the capital offender's side when he died, were you not?
What are you talking about? 'Tis a false charge, I tell you, a false charge.
The name of the inmate who was with Selden at his death isn't noted in this file. But a simple telegram to the prison where he died would quickly tell us how false the charge really is.
But even if it's true, why would the man be so intent on killing every subsequent occupant of the convict's lodgings?
There's only one explanation for that, my lord. It was in that very room that Selden hid his loot.
So it all comes out.
Yes, and having established that, all of Mr. Shamspeare's subsequent actions start to make perfect sense.
When he was let out of prison following Selden's death, he made immediately for Mr. Gardeb's lodgings in the hope of renting Selden's old room. However, the retired army man was unable to offer him the accommodation of his choice.
because Selden's old room had already been let to somebody else, Mr. Duncan Ross.
Which is why Mr. Shamspeare subsequently devised his gas-based plot to kill the occupant of the room. And when he was successful, he presumably intended to inquire about switching into the newly vacant room.
However, with certain jittery, someone had beaten him to it.
Mr. Suseki Natsumi, the defendant of this case, no less.
So he decided to use the ploy with the gas again, didn't you, Mr. Shamspeare? This time to oust Mr. Natsume. All for one simple and a very avaricious reason. To get your hands on 1,000 pounds of loot to get your hands on the 1,000 pounds of loot left behind by the dead convict.
Looks like I'm gonna snuff it.
Oh,
Looks like I'm gonna stuff it. Listen, I want you to have loot. Anything. Just shove the garbage, get in their mitts on it. It's in the room where I was lodging when they got me. Here, this is the key to it. Take it. Always stay one step ahead, mate. See you in hell, I guess. Shamspeare.
It's mine.
what did he just say?
It's mine. That loot is mine.
Mr. Shamspeare.
It's all lies. I don't expect any of it. Why should I? We don't have a shred of evidence. You can't prove I killed that fire. Forsooth, I'm the victim here, remember? Ain't that right, ladies and gentlemen? If I don't admit to it, there's nothing you can do. You can't arrest me, for the time being anyway. Verily, you can't arrest the victim, can you? Ain't that right, ladies and gentlemen? I'm so close, I just need a few more hours. I swore to myself that I'd get my hands on it, and I can almost taste it now. Do you really think I'd just give up?
There is no question in my mind now. This man is guilty through and through. But he seems so utterly intoxicated by the idea of that loot. I'm afraid that however hard you press him, he'll never admit to what he's done, Mr. Naruhodo. There is a way. Pardon? There is one way I can finish him. No! He's already committed the most heinous crime to get... He's already committed the most heinous crimes to get his hands on that loot. Which means all we need to do is find it first.
A fine plan. Were it not for the fact that the police thoroughly searched the room following the death of Mr. Ross. If it's there at all, it must be very well hidden indeed.
Without conclusive evidence, I certainly cannot rule.
If only there was some way we could find the convict's loot quickly. This is the final piece in this complex puzzle. But I think we might have it in our possession already. Or rather, I think we may well have something that can help us find where that loot is hidden. My lord?
Yes, Kazu?
The defense would like to make a proposal about how to find the late convict's hidden loot. I believe we are already in a possession of something that could give us a clue as to its whereabouts. It's our last chance, so it has to be worth a gamble. Besides, we've used the same technique once already, and it definitely paid off then.
Very well then, Castle. Let the court hear your idea. What do you propose we could use in order to locate the hiding place of the deceased convict's hole?
Take that!
If I'm not mistaken, those are Mr. Shamspeare's handprints on the wall of his lodgings.
That's right, my lord. Exposed as a result of the defense's independent investigation of the scene. Based on a wonderful new discovery in the field of forensic science by the great detective Mr. Sholmes.
A great detective? Is that some kind of joke? Do you really think I'm going to be daunted by a man with such a ridiculous title?
I should think the great bard ought to recognize such a title when he hears one, Mr. Shamspeare. Perhaps we should compete for the honor of most ridiculous title.
Ah! 'Tis Sherlock Sholmes himself!
What are you doing here, great detective? Your usual haunts are the filthy back streets of the capital, are they not?
Ah, Mr. Reaper, it's been too long. And I see your complexion has worsened since last we met. Mr. Sholmes, he does know Lord Van Zeeks then? Well enough to say something like that in any case.
Mr. Sholmes, though you may be heralded as a great detective by the population at large, that does not give you the right to come in and go in my courtroom as you see fit.
If I may, my lord. Mr. Sholmes' newly developed scientific method has helped us to uncover vital clues in this case already.
Clues, you say?
I call them skin prints, my lord. My method identifies every location touched by an individual under scrutiny. It's the method by which we were able to ascertain this gentleman's gas pipe activities. You need only a small sample of something the individual has previously touched to make an indicator solution. In your case, sir, I used the teacup you had been holding. Elementary. So now, Mr. Naruhodo... Yes? What am I to use as a sample to make the indicator solution this time? Thank you for offering to help, Mr. Sholmes. When the convict was arrested, he was living in what is now Saseki-san's room. We need a sample to help locate Selden's loot that's hidden in his old room. What form will the sample take? We will need a particular piece of evidence in order to create the indicator solution. Indeed, and you have the piece of evidence in question? Yes, I believe so. Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo, your powers of reasoning appear to be on the up. So, which particular item is the one in question? What piece of evidence do you propose that we use to help find Selden's loot? Have a look at this. As far as I'm able to ascertain, you have very little confidence in your choice. What? Why would you think that? My dear fellow, once again, there is no mystery. Did you really believe that the minute deflection of your left eye would escape my attention? But, I asked you to look at the evidence, not my eye. I think we need to reconsider this from the start, Mr. Naruhodo. Why do I feel as though Susato-san is studying my left eye now? I'm ready and waiting, Mr. Naruhodo. The rest is in your hands. We need a sample to help locate Selden's loot that's hidden in his old room. What form will... Okay. We will need something of Selden's in order to create the indicator solution to find his loot. And something the convict owned happens to be in the possession of somebody listed in the court record. Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo, your powers of reasoning appear to be on the up. So, which particular person do you have in mind? From whom can we obtain a possession of the late convict Selden to create this indicator solution?
Take that!
Miss Green.
Me? What do you want with me?
The key around your neck, if you please.
Sorry?
That key belonged to Selden. There will be remnants of secretions from the man's skin on its surface that we can use.
Very true.
That is the sample we need. Using it, we can create the indicator solution required for Mr. Sholmes' skin print seeker. And find out exactly what Selden touched in the room that he used to rent.
Ah!
Mr. Shamspeare, as one great to another, I assure you. If the late convict's hole is hidden somewhere in his former lodgings, I shall uncover it in no more than 30 minutes.
So, Mr. Shamspeare, the truth is well within our grasp now, and as such, you will never get your hands on Selden's stolen wealth.
In that case, I'll gladly let Mr. Sholmes have this key.
No! Give the key to me! The detective shan't have it!
It's over, Mr. Shamspeare.
No. No!
You're out of options now. There is only one thing left for you to do. Admit your guilt.
Whoa. Oh, shameful spear! Despair! Be thy name! I never attempted to kill the man. I just wanted to drive him out of the room. That's all.
So you'd have time to find the convict's haul of stolen goods.
Yet after you'd killed the young man, you still didn't move into the room.
I asked the landlord, of course. I pleaded with him, but he refused.
Why?
I was 3 months behind with rent, for one thing.
Mr. Garrett really hasn't had a lot to put up with.
And he had the gas repair work done immediately afterwards, putting the room out of action for a while. And then this Japanese man swooped in at just the right moment to sign the new lease.
Poor Mr. Natsume. What unfortunate timing.
And 5 days ago, after the incident on Briar Road when the Japanese fellow got himself arrested, I thought I finally had my chance. But it wasn't to be.
No, the scene was sealed off and guarded by the police night and day.
And if I remember rightly, Mr. Sholmes spent the whole day in there reading books.
I couldn't even enter the room, let alone search for the loot.
Which is why on the day Mr. Natsume was acquitted and returned to his room, you once again tried your trick of blowing air into the gas pipe that feeds the stove in his room.
Unbeknownst to you, however, that action will lead you into a deadly trap.
William Shamspeare? How does it go? To me or not to me? That is the question.
From Shakespeare's Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 1.
Well, let me tell you, in your case, it's not to be. That is the answer. You deserve to die for what you have done.
At first, I really did think it was just a terrible accident. I'll never forget our conversation the night before Danton died.
Gas supply in my new lodgings are a complete disaster, you know, Olive.
The gas supply?
Yes, the stove always seems to go out in the middle of the night for some reason. That's no joke.
They say it's the convict's curse.
Oh, Duncan, please, don't stay there. I don't care how cheap it is.
Alright then, if it's that important to you, I'll start looking for a new place. There are spare rooms at my house. Why don't you... Oh,
A spare room in my house? Why don't you leave that horrible room tonight?
well, I'd better not. We said we'd wait until we're graduated before we told our parents, remember?
But that was the last time we ever spoke. That very night he fell victim to the gas. If only I'd known it was going to happen, I'd have insisted he left that horrible room that instant. But instead, all I've been left with is bitter regret. I stopped going to school, but something kept drawing me back to the house on Briar Road. I saw a stooped, eastern-looking man with a moustache coming out of the house one day when I was there. He walked up the road to grab grubbery from some food, so I followed him and sat myself down next to him. He had some water and soup and started to pick a quarrel with the publican.
That place is cursed, I tell you. Cursed! The ghost of that convict who used to live there is trying to suffocate me. I wake up in the middle of the night freezing to death because the stove has gone out. The room is full of gas and I can hardly breathe. But the pipes have been checked. No problem there. It's like I am the problem. That's what they're thinking.
But how could that be? That was gone, and now this man has almost suffered the same fate. Could it really be a curse? Then I remembered a rumour I'd heard about how the gas companies go around investigating the gas installations.
A rumour?
Ah, you mean... Yeah, everybody's heard the stories, it seems, about how they go around checking the pipes.
How anything connected to the gas can be extinguished by blowing air into the pipework.
That's where it started. A little flicker of doubt in the back of my mind that just wouldn't go away. Was it really an accident, though? Not sure I had the idea. It wouldn't leave me alone. It plagued me day and night. So I bought this, one of the black markets in the East End.
Sorry about that. A black market?
I've never been. I just heard people talk about them, and you really can buy anything you can think of there. In some ways, being able to get my hands on this so easily made me even more determined. I had to find out one way or another. Was Dalton's death an accident, or was it murder?
And your chosen method for establishing the truth was simple, but highly effective. Smear poison on the gas pipe you suspected the man of tampering with, and wait.
If Mr. Shamspeare was innocent, nothing would come of what you've done. But if he was guilty, he would pay for his crimes dearly.
I found out the name of the man I suspected, William Shamspeare, and then I wrote him this little note. I have information regarding the death of Danton Ross. Come to the Slattern Shed on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anybody else about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of utmost importance. If he'd done it, I knew that would worry him enough so he'd be sure to go. So I waited to see if it worked.
Of course, Mr. Shamspeare follows the instructions to the letter.
I worked out where the gas pipe was straight away. So I smeared a good amount of the poison I bought all around the mouth of the pipe, all the time praying that the devil's work wouldn't be done, and that it was all just some wild fantasy. Actually, no. All the time praying that the devil's work would be done, and the culprit would get his just deserts.
So...
"3 days ago, when you first stood in the dock before me, this whole affair seemed relatively straightforward." "Yes, my lord. I certainly never imagined the depth of depravity that we should subsequently find lurking behind the scenes."
It has been a long road, my new police friend.
Oh, yes.
And on one I certainly didn't envisage working with you.
Nevertheless, together we have reached the light at the end of the tunnel, as it were. Miss Green,
Yes, my lord?
you will henceforth be stripped of your freedom, as punishment for the attempted murder of Mr. William Shamspeare.
Yes, I know.
And you, Mr. Shamspeare, you will be tried for the murder of Mr. Duncan Ross in cold blood, and the subsequent attempted murder of Mr. Suzuki Natsume, here present.
Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes?
Yesterday at the hospital, when you and your friends stopped me from,
Killing yourself? By drinking what was left in the poison bottle?
I wasn't myself. I can't even really remember what was going through my mind. To be or not to be, I suppose. That is a question that's how hard to answer, it seems.
Well, personally, I'm glad of your being here, Miss Green.
Oh!
And I'd like to believe that it's a blessing Mr. Shamspeare didn't die when he ingested the poison. For your sake, at the very least.
Because of you, I chose life, not death. And now you've made the truth come out at last. Really, I can't thank you enough.
Oh, Miss Green.
Mr. Suzuki Natsume? Yes, my lord. The court declares that you are exonerated from all blame in this matter. Accordingly, I would call upon the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to present a verdict of not guilty.
We are in full agreement, my lord.
In that case, I hereby declare the defendant not guilty. Huzzah! Court is adjourned.
Whew, alright then. That was a tough day.
Oh, yes, yes, at last. Divine justice duly done.
Divine justice? My dear fellow, if there were any divine justice in this world, you would shave that moustache.
No, this has nothing to do with my moustache.
Some say that a luxuriant moustache is a sign of physical prowess, Mr. Sholmes.
Look at the Esquire. Once again, you've saved me from doom.
I'm very happy to have been able to help, Mr. Natsume. Congratulations on your acquittal. You're second in almost as many days.
I was first acquainted with and gained affection for English literature was in our great homeland empire. And then, by a twist of fate, I was brought to the land that bore the fruit of that literature. Only, the city of bricks and mortar became my prison. Try as I might, I never found my feet here.
In the end, I confined myself to my room and lived life through friendly old books.
You've had such a difficult time, haven't you?
Ah, but a week ago now, I dragged you out of that dark and dingy room of yours, did I not?
You did, and I've seen more of life in this week than in all my years to date. And for the first time, I feel I've begun to see the true face of the English that so far been hiding from me behind the wall of fog.
My dear fellow, there's nothing special about the true face of the English, as you put it. Wheresoever one goes in the world, humans are human. There are few genuine differences.
Yes, I think you're right. I've finally started to see that, and I've come to understand something. I've worked out why I was attracted to English literature in the first place. It made me see that whatever our nationality, we humans all have the same hopes and fears. We're all just doing our best to live.
Well said. I've come to feel the same way.
I've made a decision too. I'm going to cut short my study tour here and return to Japan.
What? Just when we'd become friends here in England. What a terrible shame.
Oh, I know. That does tug at my heartstrings. It really does. But I've decided I'd like to take everything I've learned here in Britain and write something of my own. A novel of sorts, I suppose.
Oh my, so you'll be creating your own literature, Mr. Natsume? How wonderful.
Oh, well, no, I mean, I wouldn't presume to call it literature.
Why not? When that is precisely the definition, Mr. Moustache.
I suppose you're right, yes. It will, in a way, be literature. But as of now, all I know is that I'd like to try my hand at writing. I have no delusions of grandeur.
I, for one, would love to read your work.
Well, all things considered, it may be for the best. After all, you have once again emerged victorious from a battle with the Reaper. That's very true.
And there is no salvation for a person in the dock when the Reaper is the prosecutor.
A desire to return post-haste for the perceived safety of your homeland is one I quite understand.
My goodness, yes. Faced with such terrifying prospect, nobody would consider that cowardly, I'm quite sure.
But that's not why I'm leaving. I mean it.
And that was the case that we found ourselves embroiled in 6 months ago now. Sasaki-san did indeed return to Japan and submitted a report about both cases to the government. It was on reading that report that Professor Makotoba was prompted to visit the scholar, and barely any time later, Susaru-san was given the news that she must return to Japan as well, on the back of a telegram stating falsely that her father had fallen gravely ill. The only possible explanation that comes to mind is what happened after the trial, on the following day. The day that we uncovered the loot hidden by the now deceased convict in his former lodgings.
Give me the loot, give me the loot. Give me the loot. Oh, well done, Mr. Sholmes. How simply marvelous of you to uncover the secret hiding place in just one day. Was it supposed to take 30 minutes?
As I believe I told you, my dear fellows, skin prints are extremely useful in such situations. Wouldn't you agree, Gregson? Gregsy's been happily munching an agreement this whole time, you know, early.
Happily, I think perhaps humorously might be closer to the truth.
So, it transpires the man fashioned a hiding place in the ceiling. And what's in it? What exactly is the loot? Let us look then, if you are ready. Let's examine the late burglar's hole. is that? It looks to be some sort of neckband or collar. A collar? It's huge, though. And look at all the gemstones set in it. I can see why it was claimed to be worth £1,000. Perhaps I could have it as a belt. Oh, have you noticed on the inside there are some dark stains? You don't think they could be blood? Do you? I mean, there's quite a lot of it. On second thoughts, perhaps I won't have it as a belt. Then of course there's this emblem here. A large letter B and a small crown. What does it signify, do you think? Oh, I hadn't noticed that. I feel as though I've seen that emblem somewhere before, you know. Where could it have been? That's enough of that, I think. What? What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes? All the color has drained from his face. Well, Inspector, I believe you ought to be taking this, aren't you? It could be valuable evidence, after all. It must be kept safely under lock and key.
Yeah. Get your grubby hands over there, you lot, and hand it over. Nah.
I'd never seen a collar that large before, and all those jewels certainly looked to be extremely valuable. But that's not what stood out the most to me. At least, not once I'd noticed it. Those dark marks on the inside of the collar. Those stains. Could they really have been blood? Well, that was a funny case, wasn't it? But it's all buttoned up now. And you look very pleased, Iris. I am, because I was starting to wonder what I could use as the basis of this month's story in the magazine. But this case will be perfect. It's been so fascinating. You're talking about the latest installment of the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I presume? The Mystery of the North in the Mist, and the Mustached Man and the Convict's Curse, perhaps. I could make it into a 2-part story. Oh, I can't wait. A word, please, Iris. Yes, wait. Sorry, guys. Sorry about this. This is unacceptable, I know, but we're almost done. Yes, what is it, Early? I'm sorry, but you can't write about this case. It's out of the question. What? Why not? It's a great case. Then I shall have to insist that you limit yourself to the first of your 2 titles. The second must never be written. Is that clear? Yes.
And so it was that the second of Souseki-san's cases became buried in obscurity. Now, looking back, I feel I understand. I can see why Mr. Sholmes forbade Iris from publishing the story. It would take a little longer before I saw the link between everything that had happened and would happen. For it wasn't until 2 months after the arrival of Susato-san's letter that events began to unfurl again, with an incident that took place at the very heart of the eagerly awaited Great Exhibition of London.
I mean, I could have read that, but